Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Sophie Scott. It's long been a dream of science to restore sight to the blind. Now it seems that once distant goal is ever closer. Scientists around the world are racing to become the first to design a bionic eye, and an Australian team is leading the way with a device that could be ready for clinical trials within a year. Gavin Fang reports.
It doesn't look like much, but this small device might prove to be the technological breakthrough that restores sight to the blind.
Australia's been very, very lucky with the history we have here with medical bionics. The heart pacemaker had an important place in Australia's history of biomedical engineering, and then the cochlear implant grew out of that. And in a sense, the bionic eye is the next generation of devices in this development.
Now that next generation might be within reach. In 12 months, a group of Australian scientists hope to begin clinical trials of a device called a retinal bionic eye.
There's a camera that we attach to a pair of glasses that will capture the image. That then gets processed and then sent through to a set of small electrodes at the back of the eye. And the electrodes send out electrical impulses that are picked up by the surviving nerve cells there and sent to the visual processing centres of the brain.
What we're expecting is that people will be able to see spots of light, which we call phosphenes. So, for example, if they were walking towards a door, they'll be able to see the edge of that mapped out with those spots.
The development of a bionic eye is something of a race between scientists around the world, with different approaches to the same problem. The Australian technology is aimed at two of the most common forms of vision loss.
There's a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which affects the peripheral part of that retina. So people lose the ability to see things to the edge, so objects, they're unable to drive, those sorts of things. And then age-related macular degeneration is the other condition that we're looking at. And with that condition, it actually affects the centre of the retina. So people are unable to see facial expressions, they can't read anymore, and those sorts of issues.
Leighton Boyd was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when he was 5.
Good morning, how are you? Good morning. How are you doing? What vision I have is just like looking down a straw pinhole. I've lost obviously all my periphery. So I was born sighted, and from my recollection, which isn't a lot at 5 years of age, I, as family, we went out and I was always the one that was a bit clumsy, I guess. Anybody with a disability tries to cover it up and not to tell people, and it's not always that easy to cover up things when you as a child.
Mr. Boyd's vision is still deteriorating and he needs the aid of a cane to get around. His disease is incurable, but he says the prospect of a bionic eye gives him hope for the future.
I've got a grandson who's 11 months old. You know, I'll be able to see him smile, and when I walk in, at the moment I'm told, look, Angus is smiling and all that, all stuff that I can't see. You know, I can physically see his body, but I can't see his face and his expressions. To be able to see that will be just a fantastic experience for me.
Yeah, do you want to have a go putting it on now?
If the development of the cochlear ear is a guide, then it could still be many years before the bionic eye technology is ready to implant. It's expected to cost about $60,000. Many of the team involved in this research worked on the cochlear ear, but they say the eye is a vastly tougher proposition.
With a cochlear implant, there's about 12,000 cells in the ear that need to be simulated to get people to hear again. When you're talking about vision, it's actually about 1.2 million of the cells.
The cochlea is a bony structure, the inner ear. It sort of protects, as it were, the nerve cells of the inner ear, whereas the eye, of course, is constantly moving, and it is a very delicate structure. So, in fact, it's taken a couple of decades for the technology to mature to the point where you can miniaturize it sufficiently to be able to put it into the eye.
The first generation of the bionic eye will use 98 electrodes to stimulate the nerves at the back of the retina. Already work is being done on a second generation with more than 1,000 electrodes that will give a clearer image. But bringing the world in full colour back to the blind is still a long way off.
Colour is an extremely difficult aspect of vision to replicate, so there's actually millions of different types of cells in the back of the eye, and depending on what colour you look at, different proportions of those cells are simulated. So the most important thing for people that are completely blind is to get back some level of independence and improve their quality of life.
If it doesn't help me, it'll help someone else, whether it's my children or grandchildren or their grandchildren, and I'm very confident that a bionic eye and other research will help them.
It's not unusual for patients in emergency to wait many hours to be seen, but that may be about to change. A new study has found that getting patients in and out of emergency wards in 4 hours can save lives, but the other incentive for hospitals could be cold, hard cash. Turning up to an accident and emergency department can often mean a long and frustrating wait for medical care, but not in Western Australia. In most hospitals in that state, patients are either admitted to hospital or discharged within 4 hours. Now, a review of that system shows it saves lives.
It found in the 3 big hospitals that had successfully implemented the 4-hour rule, there was a 13% decrease in patient mortality.
Introducing the 4-hour rule reduced overcrowding and led to 80 fewer deaths each year.
What the 4-hour rule does is it actually allows us to start thinking about things differently and changing the processes around us.
There's no doubt that emergency treatment rapidly saves lives, and a department that's overcrowded can't provide the rapid and high quality care the patients need.
From January this year, the 4-hour target is being rolled out across Australia. The federal government will pay states and territories up to $200 million if 90% of patients are seen within 4 hours by the end of 2015. It's confident the targets can be met.
I believe with the whole of hospital reform that comes with it, we will see very good outcomes in emergency departments.
With an increasing number of people attending emergency departments, hospitals need to do all they can to get patients in and out as quickly as possible. For pregnant women, preeclampsia is a common and potentially deadly condition. It kills 60,000 women around the world each year, and there are no drugs to treat it. But now the medical world is one step closer, thanks to a discovery by a team of Melbourne scientists. Frances Bell has more.
Rachel Mealmaker is expecting a healthy baby girl in 6 weeks' time, but she's being kept under close scrutiny by her doctors because just 2 years ago, her first pregnancy ended in traumatic circumstances.
They were doing all these tests because they didn't know what was wrong with me, and I had this massive pains in my chest, and then they found out that I had preeclampsia.
She had such a severe case of the condition, she was forced to deliver at 28 weeks, and her baby didn't survive. Preeclampsia affects about 1 in 20 pregnancies. It happens when the placenta releases a toxin which spreads through the mother's bloodstream, damaging her organs.
Globally, preeclampsia is estimated to account for 60,000 maternal deaths a year.
At the moment, the only treatment is to deliver the baby, but a team from the University of Melbourne and the Mercy Hospital for Women has made a discovery that could change that. They've identified a molecule which sits on the surface of the placenta and acts like a scissor, slicing the protein which releases the toxin into the bloodstream. This discovery means scientists are better equipped to develop a drug to treat preeclampsia, but it's estimated that could still take another 10 to 15 years.
Our team and other teams should be trying to develop ways to jam this specific cutting action.
If there's anything that could save someone from going through what I've gone through, I think that would be absolutely great.
The work is already underway.
160,000 Australians are said to be problem gamblers. Many seek treatment for their addiction, but many will suffer a relapse. Now researchers are trying to find out why some gamblers can't give up and what can be done to help them. Rita Searle started playing pokies socially, but realised she had a problem when she started fighting with her husband over money.
I needed it to play the pokies and he didn't want to give me any. In fact, we weren't that well off that we could really afford it.
At the peak of her addiction, she was spending $1,000 at a time on the pokies.
I would always come home in tears because of what I'd done. I had even attempted suicide twice, the second time that ended me in hospital. And a week after that I was back to playing the pokies again.
She took part in a program run by Adelaide's Flinders Medical Centre. It helps reduce the overwhelming urge to gamble.
We've developed a program which is called an exposure-based program, which is based on the principles that people develop an uncontrollable urge to gamble, which is produced by the machines, the way the machines are designed.
Of all the people who come for treatment, 60% complete the course, and about 80% of those are almost totally cured or have their gambling problems resolved. But experts admit they don't know why some problem gamblers relapse.
This overwhelming urge to gamble happens again, where they forget the harms, they don't think clearly about what's happened.
Researchers say problem gambling is a mental disorder which can have a devastating impact on the patient's family and friends.
Loss of employment, obviously, financial consequences, and social and family loss. So divorce and marital breakdown is often a common consequence.
But for Rita Searle, she says the urge to gamble has gone and she has her life back. The humble prescription pad with the characteristic doctor's scrawl may soon be a thing of the past. Thousands of deaths each year are blamed on patients being given the wrong medications. Now researchers say they've found a simple way to make doctors' orders more clear. Erna Keith is in Sydney's St Vincent's Hospital for problems with her leg. While she's here, her medications are managed through an electronic prescribing system, a portable computer that doctors take with them on their rounds.
Paper charts always got lost. Writing was not legible. A lot of medication errors used to happen. Whereas now that it's on the computer, it's very legible. Medication errors don't occur as frequently.
A new study backs up what doctors have been saying about the benefits of e-prescribing. Researchers from the University of New South Wales have found it could significantly reduce medication mistakes.
So what we found is on the wards that received the e-prescribing system, the total prescribing error rate reduced from between 58 and 66%.
Mistakes leading to serious harm or death were cut by more than 40%. Experts admit the reduction in errors was much greater than they had expected.
We were surprised about how large the impact was. We've thrown a lot of different interventions at medication safety, and this is by far the most effective.
So far, the technology has been rolled out in a couple of Australian hospitals. More are likely to follow soon. And that's all for this edition of the Health Quarter. Thanks for joining us. If you've got any story ideas or feedback, please get in touch on Facebook. Search for the Health Quarter page and click like if you want to be kept up to date. And I'll see you next time.